the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. It's in my state. It's a big race, and I'm pulling for Vivek Ramaswamy, of course. I like him. I've chronicled my relationship with him here over the years, going all the way back to when he published his book, Woke Inc. And I was at the launch party of that book. And I know Vivek well enough to say I feel very confident in his he's going to be a good governor. And I'll just say that Democrats, the David Peppers, I've dealt with David Pepper for many years, the Mark Elias's, the Washington lawyer, they're all wrapped up in Amy Acton's campaign. And you can kind of tell where it's going. I have seen internals on it. She's definitely sucking air. David Pepper knows it. You can see by the way he's been putting posts on X. You can tell where their concerns are. And Mark Elias, of course, knows that if Democrats can't cheat, that's why he fights hard to keep loose election laws, so they have back doors to cheat with mail-in ballots and other methods, because Democrats are not popular in the United States. And but there's a socialist, Marxist, communist movement in the United States. And Amy Acton is certainly a huge part of that. They would love to get her in under the door in Ohio. And of course, you could see by the way David Pepper puts those posts up that it's all about Vivek Ramaswamy is bad because he's a billionaire. He's very wealthy. And Amy Acton's good because labor unions like her. And I've described what labor unions are all about. They might be supporting Trump these days because they're starting to learn things I've been saying for years. The labor movement started in all the whole 5-day work week, the 8-hour days, and a lot of people say, that's great. You want to work people to death? There's a lot of things that came out of the labor movement that were ostentatiously communist. And that's all about the people running companies. It's essentially what it is. It's a populism all its own. And you see it in corporate culture all the time. And when you get the big mean oligarch, the big mean manager, when the people rise up to overthrow them, that's a lot of what you got going on with David Pepper going after Vivek Ramaswamy. I tend to like people like Vivek Ramaswamy. I like rich people. I saw that there was a bunch of criticism that Trump made $2 billion last year. And that as president, he's supposed to open up his veins and give his blood. Now, I've spent, and I will continue to spend, and I think it's much to the consternation of a lot of my normal readers and watchers. I have spent a lot of time diving into biblical culture, the culture of sacrifice, North American Indian mounds, indigenous people. I was looking at a copy of a relic. It's called The Shaman of Cahokia, or not Cahokia. Cahokia is I wrote a screenplay about that place years ago, and the human sacrifice that went on there. And I often compare the Indian cultures, and this is taboo in the archaeology world, which, this is why I spend a lot of time on these things, because the new great political movement is to understand why human beings are inclined to sacrifice to forces beyond their terrestrial existence. So in my book, the upcoming book, The Politics of Heaven, and I'm not trying to browbeat this to everybody, I'm just saying, when you want to understand the nature of sacrifice, it's not enough to say, Amy Acton bad, Vivek Ramaswamy good. President Trump good because he knows how to get he knows how to make money and start economies. He's written a lot of great books well before he was ever president. There's a little show called The Apprentice, where a lot of what he's doing in office, as he did on the shows, he did in his books, and people who were trying to be successful in life would listen to him. He had a lot good to say. That's why he became president, everybody. So you expect President Trump to make $2 billion while in office. He's not supposed to make any money. He gives back his entire $400 million salary or $400,000 salary that he would make as president. He makes enough money off his businesses laid out well before he was ever president. And all these communists out there who are out for equality. When you hear that word equality, they're saying economic equality, we shall all make money. I want to make money. I don't want to go to my job. I want to work from home. The COVID policies were all about Marxism. So when Amy Acton came out, and she's trying to distance herself from it now, but David Pepper keeps putting her back into it, keeps reminding everybody that she is the communist in the race. She's the Mom Dami of Ohio. And they want to turn Ohio purple. They're trying to do it in Texas. They certainly have done it in California. And, this is the game that they're playing. And Vivek Ramaswamy is the capitalist, the one that's out there trying to create jobs and create economic mobility for people. And I can say that because I've interacted with Vivek many times personally. And I was there when he was launching his campaign. He was going from a CEO to an author to a political figure before he ran for president. And he represents the Trump agenda here in Ohio as a potential governor, and which I'm very supportive of. But the attacks against him are he's rich and you can't trust him. He's a con man. It's the same kind of stuff if you go to a union meeting. Can't trust the man, that evil manager. It's all about the communist movement taking control of production. The people, and I've seen in corporate cultures over and over again, almost every corporate culture that's out there has this, it's all about the people, and they're going to take control of the company. See how that goes for you. As far as it goes with me, I've seen that many times, and I just, when I've run into those things, I just go do my own thing, and it doesn't take very long for everybody to come begging for me to fix it. And that's the standard thing over a 40-year career of mine, where people get themselves in trouble and then say, "Hey, Rich, please fix it." And there's a lot of people asking me to fix their stuff now, and I'm reluctant because I'm kind of on this other thing. I actually want to deal with the reason why politics, like the Amy Actons, the David Peppers, why are there people who will vote for them who basically say the rich must sacrifice what they do to the poor? Okay, you hear it in Christianity too, and I have a major problem with it. I think I'll be in the same paragraph. I'll say Christianity is one of the greatest inventions mankind has ever come up with, and I say an invention. It's a movement that came and brought great civilization to flourishing. But also, even though Karl Marx was no Christian at all, it allowed for them to create a political movement which was circulated through secret societies to all the governments of the world, to have a Marxist movement which most of the world is buckling under right now through corporate culture. So that's a lot to say. It's a lot for the normies to get their minds wrapped around. Hey, you'll get there. Eventually, you'll find your way there. You don't have to listen to what I'm telling you. I'm not convincing you of it. I'm telling you about it. Just like I could say, hey, the sun's out. If you don't put sunscreen on and you go to the beach all day, you're going to get sunburned. No, I don't sunburn. I got a nice tan. I'm not going to wear that sun blocker because it causes cancer. Hey, I just told you about it. I'm going over here. I'm going to drink a pop and eat a bag of chips and enjoy watching the day. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You do you. And when it all blows up in your face, don't expect me to jump through hoops to fix you. Okay, you should have listened to begin with. And the same here with Amy Acton and Vivek Ramaswamy. Again, I think it's going to be Vivek easily. The polling, the internals, when you can tell where David Pepper's mind is, and he's the one running for vice governor or lieutenant governor with Amy Acton. He used to be in charge of the DNC in Ohio. And these are big time. I mean, Washington politics, the Democrat Party, Mark Elias is heavily involved in Amy Acton. And remember, she's a lockdown lady. She told you to shut your business down, had to socially distance, didn't care if you lost money. And I appreciate being able to talk about some of these things. But yeah, I've had some very smart, high-level people invite me on some of those conference calls during COVID. So I heard Amy Acton, Governor DeWine, John Husted. I know John Husted certainly well enough to know what Sherrod Brown says about him is all the Marxist, communist talking points. Because John Husted has consistently always been pro-business. To listen to them talk on a conference call, and to have Cedar Fair Amusements, which, Six Flags bought out Cedar Fair Amusements. You know why? Because Cedar Fair Amusements needed revenue, year-long revenue. And I've been on conference calls with them, the governor, Amy Acton, and John Husted, and a lot of very powerful legislators. And I appreciate that they trusted me enough to say, hey, why don't you listen to the kind of garbage we're always dealing with? It's like, okay, I'd like to know. Rather than you tell me, I'd rather find out for myself. So, I get invited on these things, and I heard it with my own ears. 2020, early 2021. So let me tell you about Cedar Fair Amusements. So, the David Peppers of the world are like, Vivek Ramaswamy is evil because he's rich. Or he took a stride money management, which went right up against BlackRock. You know how much BlackRock pours money into the Democrats. Larry Fink is a huge Democrat. He wanted to be in politics. He's kind of disappointed that he's one of the richest people in the world. And he runs the largest money manager fund in the world, BlackRock. I would tell you, I've said the Lords of Easy Money lays it out. The Fed made BlackRock who BlackRock is because they needed a bailout and they needed a fall guy, and it worked out for them. And Larry Fink turned out to be the benefactor of that. Now, they run their Aladdin computer to make money management, investments, and everything. And going back to investing, you don't make money, everybody, going to a job 9 to 5. You make money by investing and taking chances. And President Trump made $2 billion in investments, and he just sort of throws money into an investment account. They go and do it. Stride Management does that. Is competed against Larry Fink's BlackRock, and they, so when Vivek Ramaswamy moved Stride to Texas, it was because Texas had better laws, and there was a lot of COVID era policies that were making it very hard to run a good business in Ohio. So regulations forced people to pick up and move, and Vivek Ramaswamy took his company to a place where it could be more profitable. So let me tell you, and so David Pepper and the gang will tell you, that's not very patriotic for Ohio. How can you be Ohio governor? Well, it helps to understand why business owners move their companies. If you don't have business owners investing in Ohio, there's no jobs, people. And you're not going to get rich going to a 9 to 5 job. And labor unions and collective bargaining all expect that. They expect disproportionately high wages for very little work done. And it's all about attacking demand. It's a communist policy. It's written right there in Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto, and Engels and Marx, and a lot of people are talking about these days. I heard on the Clay and Buck show, these are normies. Clay and Buck I consider to be normies. And they're talking about, oh my gosh, what happened? Where'd all this communism come from? Been warning you forever. Been telling you it was coming, and you didn't listen. So now here it is, and now because the internals are saying what I've been telling you all along, Vivek Ramaswamy, the media outlets is saying it's a neck and neck race, are only saying it because they're trying to get you to buy advertising on their media stations, their media platforms. It's a corporate media thing. The polls come straight out of corporate media. They're bought by the corporate media. I think the latest poll was a New York Times poll that said that the race in Ohio is really close. It's neck and neck. That's so that the campaign spend ad revenue on those corporate media outlets. So the polling is there to get people to think it's close, so that people will continue buying ads. How do I know that? Personal experience. Personal experience directly. Absolutely 100% sure of it. So it's neck and neck, they say. I'm telling you, it's not. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is ahead by 8 to 10 points. And David Pepper knows that because they're going out and they're attacking what they can't attack. And that is the communist mantra. It's a 42% issue to 56% or 58%. Some undecideds in there to kind of fill the gap. Vivek Ramaswamy, people want upper mobility. They want opportunities in life. And the only one in the campaign that in Ohio for governor that's offering that is Vivek Ramaswamy. Amy Acton is the socialist representative, the communist representative. And David Pepper to be the attack dog, her lieutenant governor in this case. Her running mate, and that's what running mates are supposed to do, is be the attack dog. He's going out and attacking Vivek Ramaswamy's wealth and prosperity. Same what they did with Trump the other day. Trump's been in presidency now for 2 years. They made $2 billion last year. Well, he also made about the same when he bought, when during his exile. And just a little hint to everybody about exiles. Just because you exile somebody doesn't mean that you win. Trump went out and started Truth Social during his exile period, which was 4 years. 4 years. From Mar-a-Lago, the day after the election of 2020, I told everybody, don't go out and kill people of the opposite side. Go win legitimately. Play the lawfare game with them. Beat them legally. That's how you do it. Don't go all funky. They might try to bait you into doing something stupid, like a January 6th. Bait you into throwing yourself onto the pike. Beat them all kinds of other ways. It's what I always do. You never go run yourself in. Always watch out for the buzzsaws. And in Trump's case, having wealth and money is the way you beat them. And he started Truth Social in his exile because Elon Musk had not bought X yet. Twitter was still throwing people off the platform. Google was still throwing people off the platform. And this is how it works, people. And I've seen it over a 40-year career in my life. I've seen this happen to me personally about 9 times. And always within a year or two, you have everybody back licking your feet. Help me, please. And in Trump's case, all the people that knocked him off the platforms, the owners of Alphabet, Google, of course, Apple, of course, Meta. That's a good story, Mark Zuckerberg. People say, how can you sit down and talk to people who are openly been hostile to you? That's business, everybody. You never tell people what you think to their face. Is it dishonest? No, it's business practice. It's the way you play poker. You don't go in there and say, hey, I'm going to put these cards down. You see it? Do you have time to react? No, you play your cards close. They might be bad ones, might be good ones. You don't signal to all the other guys how to play their hand. You play your hand. You play it to beat the other guy. You play it to win. And, you don't give them if you're angry and you're showing emotions during a poker hand, of course they're going to pick up on that. They're going to be like, why is he talking like that? Why is he sitting like that? Why is his eye flinching? Why is he using his fingers like that? People will ascertain all kinds of elements, and they're looking for clean signs that the other side is depleted. But the Republicans in Ohio, good for them to listen. Like I've told everybody, and they are listening, the ad campaigns in Ohio are good. Don't let people forget, Amy Acton was the lockdown lady. She shut down the state. She harmed all businesses very much. And I'll come back to the Cedar Fair amusements in a minute, because this is the inside story. Trump invested a lot of money into Truth Social. I was one of the very first people on the platform because I was banned everywhere. I'm still blacklisted, even though it's better than it used to be. Algorithms say, if that Rich Hoffman guy is doing anything, try to ban him any way possible. The only way to take the throttle off of his stuff is for him to pay us thousands of dollars to remove the restrictor plates, because everything online is controlled by somebody. It's not a free speech platform. You might have a right to free speech, and they may be playing in that world, and Elon Musk does, but I can just tell you all the algorithms that have been sitting on my neck for years are still there. Elon Musk and the gang did not take them away. But they still get out there. People hear me, they look it up, they still find it, they come to it. I always say the stuff I do is like the A-Team. They're hard to find, but if you can find them, and you can get to them, they'll solve problems for you. But they're hard to find. They're usually hiding in the underbelly of society. Same with me. I'm not playing with the normies too much on the golf course. I restrict my engagement in those things. So you're probably not going to find me. Lately, everybody's been finding me at Costco. I've had to change my habits, not because I dislike the people who are finding me, but because, I can't be too predictable. We talk about concealed carry all the time. Yeah, I'm a concealed carry guy. And the question, this happened just yesterday. Why are you carrying a 500 Magnum? And I always wear vests or a suit jacket. And they're like, why do you wear it? It's hot out. Why are you wearing that? Well, I have to conceal my gun. What do you have? And then everybody talks about their concealed carry guns, and they're usually 45s, smaller platforms, 9mm, things that fit real nice under your shoulder, under your armpit. And I have to say, I don't go bragging about it, but my two carry guns are a 500 Magnum, and literally the barrel, it's a 10-inch barrel. Literally the barrel, my vests are really long. And so to answer the question, my suit jackets will conceal them. That's why I wear them a lot. I may not wear them in government buildings, but I take them off and leave it in the car or do whatever. Wear as much as possible. Because in a standing position, your vest or your jacket needs to conceal it. If you're going into a store or somewhere where you can carry, you're supposed to conceal carry it, or you can open carry it now in Ohio more than you used to be able to, which is good, but it tends to scare the kids. So it's good to conceal. So anyway, a lot of people don't like me, and stoplights, 2-lane stoplights are very dangerous. And a lot of the roads I typically spend a lot of my work week on are double-lane roads where you can be in one lane, someone can pull up next to you at a stoplight, and they have a shot into your passenger window or your driver's side window. So for that purpose, and I shouldn't be saying all this, I guess, but I think it's important for context. For that reason, I typically change my route. I don't always go the same way every day, ever. I get very creative with my routes that I take to places. And so when I find out that people know that I'm like at Costco on Thursdays between 11 and 1, there are people who have been parked in the handicap zones outside waiting for me to show up during that time period, and actually sit in their cars and wait for me. So they see me coming, and I'm pretty easy to spot in a crowd. When they see me coming, they get out and they engage me either in the parking lot on the entryway in, or they catch me in that little foyer area ahead of the scan-in area where they keep the shopping carts. And they want to talk to me and then tell me how much they appreciate all this good stuff. And I appreciate that people go out of their way like that. But I go over there on Thursdays because I typically have overseas calls, and I can kind of break away during those hours to go to Costco and kind of get away and change my scenery a little bit, which is something I like to do. I've had to change that because more than 5 people over the last 2 weeks have done just what I reported. And they wanted to talk to me further. They want to send me an email. It's like the A-Team. They want to make me an offer. And they want to hire the A-Team to come in and fix their stuff. And just like the A-Team, who lives underground and lived off the grid because they were wanted people, they were wanted men. If you remember that old 80s show, it was a really good show. I always liked Hannibal, Mr. T and the gang. I liked them. The A-Team, it fits. So when they want to hire you and they want to find you, they catch you where they think you're going to be. But also people who want to get rid of you, they do pull up the stoplights, and I don't just carry. I'm not a concealed carry holder for fun or as a bragging rights thing. I do it as a tool, as a functional tool. Just like you might carry a jack in your trunk because in case you have a blown tire. Does it happen every day? No. But over 10 or 15 years, do you blow a tire every now and then and have to get out and change it? Yeah. And have I had to do that? You betcha I have. More than once, actually. And why the big gun? So everybody says, why you got to carry such a big gun? Well, because the 45 caliber bullets, they're big bullets, but they don't have a lot of muzzle velocity behind them usually. The 9mm, unless you're dealing with magnums, 357s, 44s, of course. My favorite go-to is the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. I love my Desert Eagle 50 caliber, but there's a lot of moving parts, and occasionally the Desert Eagle jams on you. It's great for getting 7 shots out at somebody. That's awesome. But if it's not great if it jams, and you gotta, while you're in an engagement, you gotta pull back the slide and try to dump out the bullet so the next one chambers correctly. The Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum is a very good gun. Has a lot of kick. Actually, it has so much kick that it could almost pull your arm off. But if you're trying to shoot through a window and you don't want your bullet to deflect and the other guy, because you got to remember, usually the cars that are over from you have their windows up, or they might roll their window down. Even a 9mm bullet striking a halfway rolled down window can deflect the bullet trajectory away from the target. So if your target radius is ahead in a driver's seat, and you quickly get your gun out, get it where you're pulling. Now, granted, it's a 10-inch barrel, so I have to shoot about right here, right in front of your face. Not the best thing to do in the world, but if the bullet's going and you got time for 1 or 2 shots, you want those 1 or 2 shots to penetrate through the obstacles and get to where they got to go. And that means a half rolled down window that might have some armor behind it. It might be at an angle, so when the bullet hits it, it deflects it ever so small and deflects the bullet away from your target. You don't get a bullet into the torso of the person you're trying to shoot at, or it doesn't get the headshot that you're looking for. Because people wear armor these days. You can get armor on Amazon. I've actually had that problem with people. And they wear light bullet armor. So if you're trying to get into them, you got to use a high caliber bullet. And for me, the 500 Magnum is my choice. So why do people try to kill you? Well, that's why I talk about this whole issue. I mean, this is all about Vivek Ramaswamy and Amy Acton, but it's also why Democrats have a culture of sacrifice. So when they designate you as a job creator or a person of intellect, as someone they want to sacrifice, as all human cultures have done through all human history. This is why I'm obsessed with this topic. Even go back to the Indians, and I talked a little bit about the shaman. There's a relic, the shaman of Newark, which is essentially a transforming bear character that's holding the decapitated head of something that looks kind of like a Mayan. Could be an Olmec character, could be an early Aztec character traversing up and down the Mississippi River, but it's a decapitated head. So when we talk about the indigenous people were so peaceful, I just remind people, well, Cahokia, they had human sacrifice when their kings died or their high priest died. They buried all their wives and everybody with them. Now, what creates this culture of sacrifice? So when the left says the rich must be sacrificed, President Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, or me. Okay, you went out and worked hard, got up every morning to make money. You struggled to take care of all your obligations, your family, and all things that cascade off you. You owe us. You owe us. You own property. You stole property from the indigenous people, so you can pay for that property with taxes, property taxes. That's why it's important. Vivek Ramaswamy is talking about getting rid of property taxes. So is President Trump. Democrats, this is a big deal for them. They couldn't get it through the front door, so they got it through the back door. Pay for our big government schemes with your property taxes that you acquired for stolen land from the indigenous people. You must sacrifice to them. All right, so when you have a culture of sacrifice that's driven behind radical politics, which is clearly the case, when they can't beat you in an argument, which they can't win the argument, and they're not going to win the governorship in Ohio, they can't beat Vivek, they're not going to beat Trump, they're not going to beat the MAGA movement, they're certainly not going to beat guys like me in trench warfare. What do? They try to kill you. You've seen it over and over again with Trump. You see it over and over again. Why do you think they're attacking Vivek Ramaswamy's security detail? Those guys have lives of their own. They have messy lives with spouses. They try to make extra money wherever they can. They're people. They're employees. Why do you think they're attacking the security detail of Vivek Ramaswamy? Well, the same reason that all cultures try to choke off. They may have a target radius they're going for, and they try to get you to loosen your defense of that region through attacking you by some other means. So then they force your behavioral change, which then it constitutes their ability to strategically implement some impediment on you. Happens all the time. And that's why on the concealed carry front, I say, yeah, why do you have to protect yourself? Well, because they don't have any other way to win the argument but to kill you, eliminate you from the discussion. And they do it in corporate culture, get rid of you so they can build some culture of sacrifice to the will of the people, as they say, at the sacrifice of those who create the wealth in the first place. That's the whole game. All right, so yeah, there's a few times where I've definitely had to defend myself, and it's always stoplights. So going back to why I changed my patterns to Costco. I haven't been going there since people have found out that's a routine I do. I change my routine constantly for that all the reasons I just said. Now let's go back to the famous discussion with Cedar Fair Amusements. I always liked Cedar Fair. I thought they did a good job with Kings Island. I like them in Ohio. I think they run good parks in Cedar Point. Really well done up there. And, of course, Kings Island. But after COVID, I was ridiculous trying to go to Kings Island during the summer of 2020, where every 3 seats on a roller coaster had to be open. And who did this? Amy Acton came with all this garbage. Mask up, be a superhero, wear a mask. Try going to Kings Island in July, which we did that year 2020. Try going to Kings Island in 2020 wearing a mask all day, and you had to social distance in the roller coaster lines and everywhere else. It was a miserable experience. And it really hurt the revenue for Cedar Fair Amusements that summer. So I was on a conference call with them, Amy Acton, John Husted, lots of legislators, and Governor DeWine. And I got to listen to the ridiculous I felt sorry for the Cedar Fair amusement people. They were like, hey, your policies are killing our revenue, and we only have summertime to get there. Hey, tough toodles. It's about safety and health. We don't want to kill people, do we? Yet Amy Acton is the abortion queen. Abortion's death. And she put COVID patients in nursing homes, which then killed elderly people. But yet they killed businesses openly as they pled with them, please don't use government policy to kill my business. So you know what they did? 2021, 2022, 2023, I think it was by 2023 they did it. Six Flags acquired Cedar Fair Amusements, and the parks have Cedar Point and Kings Island have not been the same. They are not as good as they were by any means. You can tell when you get there. Just like a lot of corporate cultures, they come in with a bunch of nonsense and they try to woke it with some board of consensus builders. I've told everybody what the consensus building exercises were, the Delphi technique, were in early days of school board meetings. It's all consensus building, and they expect it to work 100% of the time. And people have been on to the game, and people like me have laid it out for everybody to understand how to play that game. And I feel sorry for Cedar Fair Amusements, but I did not blame them when they came out of 2020 barely alive. They lost a huge amount of revenue. They only have spring and summer to make it. And the COVID lockdowns were going on during that period. So they had almost no revenue that year, and they almost died on the vine. So they partnered with a company, Six Flags, who has a lot of amusement parks in the South. And those parks have year-long revenue, like the Disney World complex. They don't close in September after Labor Day. They stay open year-round. And a place like Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio, Mason, Ohio specifically, they open up for like the haunt season, the Halloween period in October, weekends only. I love going there. It's my favorite time of year to go to Kings Island, is the haunt period. And then they also do, I got some stories about Secret Service and Kings Island, and some of my former employees I could tell you, but I'll say that another time. Just thinking about the haunt. I had an employee who left me to work weekends at Kings Island, who eventually became part of Trump's security detail. And I remember taking my family through, and he didn't know I was going to be there that night, but I'm pretty recognizable. And he recognized me in the line going through with a whole bunch of other people through a haunted house. And he singled me out in front of everybody, and it was kind of weird. But yeah, I'm weary about being too predictable. Not because I worry about the engagement, because every time you get an engagement with somebody, it's a potential court case. And so far, the ones I have been in, nobody wanted to prosecute them because they was so clearly my side on the right, being correct, justified. And the laws in Ohio, since those things have happened, are much better. And I'm happy that DeWine, because he was so bad on COVID, got a lot better on a Second Amendment during his term. Helped me out a lot, because I am actually a person who benefits most from those laws. But why do I carry a big gun? Well, because I don't want the bullet to bounce off the windows. If I'm going to shoot at somebody, I don't want it to get stuck in light armor, bulletproof vests that someone buys off Amazon, decides, hey, we're going to pay you $100,000 to pull up next to Rich Hoffman and shoot him. Kill him at a stoplight. So if you're going to pull out a gun and shoot, you want to make sure you stop the target. You probably only have 2 shots to change the circumstance. And if you're trying to unload 7 shots into somebody, by the time you get to 5, 6, and 7, they're probably shooting back at you. They'll have a chance to duck or hide or drive away by then. So you got to get your first couple shots into the target. That's why I carry my first reaction is not the Desert Eagle. I don't think I'm giving anything away here, because the Desert Eagle might jam on you. I use that as a backup because the 500 Magnum only holds 5 rounds. But you only need 1 or 2 of them, and it's a revolver, and it runs well. I've shot it enough to learn how to hold it, control it, even if I'm shooting it at an angle like this. I don't drop it out of my hand. I've practiced. People make comments about my muscles in my arm. That's from repeated strengthening from bullwhips that I do. Martial art weapons I use, nunchucks specifically. Very, very proficient with them. But you gotta have all these little muscles to be able to do it well. And then, of course, practicing the trigger pull and the heavy recoil on the 500 Magnum, held not with my arm out or both hands on it, but shooting it with an elbow cocked and making sure you can maintain the shot in your hand, and kind of learning where to get the bullet when you're drawing and pulling and shooting from here, because you ain't got time to get, because you're gonna have your window, your window in your car is gonna be up. You ain't got time to roll your window down. You gotta literally pull it here, shoot it here. Bullet's got to go through your window and the other guy's window and into them, usually if they pull up on the left-hand side, which is the typical thing to do. If you're a hitman and you've been contracted, and it happens a lot, you don't see them in the paper. Just because you don't hear a report in the paper doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I know people like to hear me tell stories about my days where I knew members of the mob. I was very close to some of them. The Newport mobs, the Chicago mob as it operated on Chester Road in Sharonville. I knew judges in a very big way. I actually had a get out free jail card. So I know how these guys work, and I know what contract work is for them. And I know how it goes down. I know who pays. I know how they receive the money. I know the whole game. That's why I'm prepared for it. And I know their favorite ways of doing it is the way I'm describing. And it's I've had to experience it a few times. Not for about 4 years. Anyway, we're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy and the sacrifice culture. So I'm obsessed with this topic of why people, especially Democrats, believe that they must sacrifice to indigenous people or the gods of indigenous people in order to have a fruitful existence. And that means the modern labor movement, communists that have moved in through Marxism into the Democrat Party, and they're behind Amy Acton, locking down, gaining control of the means of production, which is essentially what happened during COVID. Government gained control of the means of production through a virus that was manufactured in a Wuhan lab. And it gave people like Amy Acton control over that means of production. That's what it's all about. So don't illusion yourself that it was anything else. It was very much about controlling the means of production, COVID. Everything about COVID was about safety. And Amy Acton is the radical with a track record of actual communism and Marxism. She was every bit as crazy as Fidel Castro in Ohio, as far as shutting down the state and harming companies like Cedar Fair Amusements, who were trying to run Kings Island. And their business season was torpedoed with COVID policies. How they react? Well, just like when Vivek Ramaswamy had to move Stride Management out of Ohio to Texas, when David Pepper is criticizing him for it. Well, the policies in Ohio are not good for businesses. And everybody's trying to change that. Vivek Ramaswamy is trying to change that. But David Pepper, the communist, doesn't know, Democrat communist, and they represent the populist wing of the Communist Party that's in the Democrat Party, the Bernie Sanders types. Ocasio-Cortez, and now several others who are making headways, to turn Ohio into California, essentially. A blue state with blue state politics that stays in power through election fraud. That's what they're trying to do in Ohio. So far, people have voted for Republicans to keep that from happening. And Republicans have done their job. And Democrats have gone after them every way. And when they lose the argument, they call them corrupt. And that's what's going on with Vivek Ramaswamy. The rich mantra isn't working. When they're talking about rich versus poor, that's a losing argument. And they're not going to win on that. People have picked over and over again Republicans. People voted for Trump knowing that he was wealthy, knowing that he has trophy wives, and he's a playboy, and he drives fancy cars, and he lives in a penthouse at the top of a giant golden tower in New York. Vivek Ramaswamy is desirable because he talks on his tennis court, on his private residence, because he's rich, because he's made a lot of money. And he's a good guy, and I can personally say that. But they're trying to attack him as being wealthy because they're trying to pander to that 42% Marxist core that doesn't have the numbers yet. They might in a few years, but because that's what they teach in public education. And if you don't stop it now, they will have a majority very soon, because they're teaching them every generation of kids that come out of the public school system are essentially communists until they learn not to be. And it's a bad case, and it happens overtly. So anyway, Yeah, don't forget Amy Acton is the communist in this race in Ohio, and that's a lot more for me to talk about than I planned. But my obsession with sacrifice cultures, which the Democrat Party is to understand the psychological makeup of them, not just what they do in practice. And David Pepper has fallen to that because Amy Acton is not gaining on Vivek Ramaswamy. The polling has been indicated to be close because they're trying to sell ad revenue, New York Times specifically and others, who are part of that corporate media structure that need the ad revenue of this season to the political season for the midterms to generate revenue that they can live off of. And if it's a blowout race, like I think it is, where Vivek Ramaswamy wins by 8 to 10 points, then neither campaign will go out and spend the money, and donors won't invest money. So the polling at this stage, and David Pepper attacking the rich versus poor thing, is all about trying to keep that narrative alive because the other stuff's not working. And they're desperate. And that's where the inside track lays it. But yeah, I can tell you, Amy Acton, I heard her on that conference call. And I can tell you, people who are upset that Cedar Fair Amusements is no longer running Kings Island, well, that's why. And can you blame them? I wish they still ran Kings Island. I thought they did a great job. But they were a seasonal corporation. They made all their money April through October, essentially. And Winterfest generates a little bit, but not very much. So October through March, it's a dead park, no money being generated. And that's not good for any kind of corporate culture. Got to have revenue streams. So they partnered up with a Six Flags that can throw money in the bucket that comes from amusement parks that aren't shut down for the season. They're open all year, and they have continuous revenue streams, and that helps the corporation. So that's why Kings Island and Cedar Point might be better amusement parks than Six Flags April through October, but the rest of the year, the other ones, Busch Gardens down in Florida, they stay open. Of course, Disney World does. When you're competing with that, vacation dollars, you got to adjust. And so Six Flags was a way to protect themselves from the Amy Actons of the world. And that's why they moved out of Ohio. They weren't Ohio managed amusement parks companies anymore. And that's a good reason why. I think Vivek Ramaswamy ought to tell that story a little bit. Why did you move Stride Management? Well, I'm competing against BlackRock, and everybody's targeting me, and I need good policies in Ohio politics for the structure for me to be successful with this business. So we moved to Texas. They were much friendlier. That happens in a lot of cases, and people don't know it because the David Peppers and the Mark Eliases and the Amy Acton socialists out there are playing rich against poor, hoping to activate their base of communists to go vote. And it's not working so far, which is why they're getting a little desperate, which is good. It's telling. It's a good position to be in. Anyways, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon. Coming soon. The politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.